Calvin, Justin Jones was really no stranger to the State House because as a young activist, he demanded the removal of the bust of Nathan Bedford Forrest, who was the founder of the KKK and also a slave owner. That bust was put in the Tennessee State House back in 1978. Was this political payback?
Well, I think in some way it's maybe rooted in that, but I think it's really interesting, as you said, former state rep Justin Jones may not have been well known outside of Tennessee a week ago, but think about the national platform that he has now. So I find it just incredibly ironic that those lawmakers in Tennessee who sought to stifle debate on, gun reform actually ended up giving Representative Jones and Pearson and Johnson a platform that they probably wouldn't have been able to get otherwise.
Calvin, Republicans say this was not about race, but instead decorum, and yet no one is pushing back on the fact that one member urinated on another's seat and actually kept his position in the House, and others are being investigated by the feds. Does the decorum argument, in your opinion, hold water?
No, it doesn't. And I think that Representative Johnson, when she was saying that, maybe they thought it would get censure, that made sense because, they were making a political statement. That was a reflection of the protesters who had come there. But when it comes to, the racial question, as she said, there have been a lot of other things that are a lot more egregious than what happened in that well. And I think that race did play a factor as well as their age, because I think we are seeing, regardless of party, a difference of policy priorities among the youth. And I think that the fact that they were young, that they were African-American, definitely played a role in silencing them and expelling them from the legislature.
What message is the administration sending by dispatching the vice president to Tennessee today, wrapping up that meeting just moments ago?
I think the administration's sending several messages, and they're all good ones. I think one is to really address that democracy to work. We have to be able to entertain, consider, and deal with dissent. And I think that's something that President Biden has talked about during his campaign, about bringing back that order, those democratic norms. I also believe that, especially with Vice President Harris, one of the issues that she's very passionate about is the gun reform debate. And I think that one of the things that will probably come out of the meeting, once we know what they talked about, I think it'll probably be that the Tennessee legislature couldn't act when it came to reforming or even entertaining gun restrictions, but they surely could act to do this unprecedented move to remove these two lawmakers. So I think the administration is doing what they should. They're increasing the spotlight on this situation, which I think is very necessary.
Calvin, I want you to listen to Justin Jones and what he said today about what happened. Take a listen.
We often find ourselves in situations where we're not allowed to speak on issues, and that happens a lot more in the House than in the Senate, but they're frustrated.
Safe to say that was not Justin Jones. But I think the question is, what does it say about the state of our democracy when two elected lawmakers can be removed by a state house that seems to be more upset about decorum than the death of those 6 people, including 3 9-year-olds, because that's why all of those people were there?
I think that's something that we're seeing in Tennessee and actually is happening in many states across this country, where you have majorities, even super majorities of one party are trying to dictate not just the agenda of the legislature, which they can make the argument that having the majority allows them to be in control of the agenda, but they are trying to stifle any debate. And who that really hurts are the constituents, because the constituents of these 2 lawmakers' districts, they deserve representation. And even if they elected members who were not of the party that's in the majority, they still have just as much right to be a part of the legislative process and be represented. And so if you compare that need to recognize the voice of the constituents to decorum, as some people are calling it, it doesn't even compare. And I think that's a sad state of affairs in Tennessee and anywhere else.
Before I let you go, it bears pointing out that unlike the 1960s, the people in the audience, the people in the crowd, the protesters were mixed. They weren't all black. They weren't all white. They were young. They were old. They were mixed. Did the Tennessee legislature miss a chance to look at its future voters and do something?
Yes, I think they did. And, you know, there were a lot of young people, there were old people, there were parents, there were, students. I think on this issue particularly, and given the fact of the horrible tragedy that happened in Nashville, that they missed an opportunity to realize that there may be diverging opinions on how to solve this, but it deserves the attention and it deserves the airing of the different sides, the dissent, the debate. And the fact that they weren't able to seize on that opportunity shows that they need to get their priorities in order.
Safe to say it has their attention now. Political analyst Calvin Dark. Calvin, thank you very much.
Thank you.